Welcome to the Truth About Your Migraine interview series. I am your host, Maria Hykin. Today, I'm very excited to speak with Mary England of Uncustomary Love. Mary is a self-proclaimed merriment maker, and her mission in life is to help people be happy. As simple as that, as difficult as that. So she has a beautiful message. Everybody, all of us have issues, whether it's mental health issues, chronic pain issues, body image issues. But regardless of those issues, we all should be happy, and we can be. This is what Mary says, at least. So I'm very happy that she agreed to speak with me today and to bring her beautiful message to you via this podcast. And without further ado, I would like to give the floor to Mary. Mary, maybe you can introduce yourself in a little more detail to us. And particularly, I would like to talk about the name of your project, Uncustomary Love. What's so uncustomary about the love that you are teaching?
Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is great. Uncustomary started realistically as my street art tag. So it was a play on my name, and I thought it was like a unique little, just like kind of silly play on Mary to uncustomary, but I liked what it stood for and the whole idea of just being unique, basically. And it transformed from me being creative and trying to spread happiness to people on the streets and have people be engaged with their environments and find positivity, like when they're, going to work, on their commutes, when we're maybe on autopilot, and just, spring out of that for a little bit and find something unique there, to my blog and business that it's transformed into, which is Uncustomary and Uncustomary Love. And that message has transformed and developed into a journey of self-love and body positivity that I've been able to help a lot of people with. And it's, been my own chronicles and documentation of my journey with self-love that really has been going on. It's my history of mental illness started when I was 8. And then I think kind of like my pivoting point of starting to really take care of myself and find self-love as like an important path was when I tried doing cognitive behavioral therapy and really take more control of my life in that sense. And that was in my earlier 20s. So it hasn't been too long in the grand scheme of things of like how long I've been dealing with mental illness, which I still think is a chronic illness. It's something that we don't see and we don't understand, and it's still stigmatized. So Uncustomary Love is just kind of a way to be as unique as you possibly can be, as weird. We're celebrating and embracing the weird.
Right.
And whatever that means for you. We're celebrating flaws and lifting each other up and embracing creativity and all the good, silly nonsense.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I love your hairpiece. So that's really beautiful and uncustomary and really, really bright. So did you start as an artist and then it kind of developed into a business of helping people overcome their issues? This is how
So I mentioned the cognitive behavioral therapy. So when I started doing that, it was really intense work that I did for about 6 months. And then when I finished and graduated, quote, from that program, I realized that I had all of this like freed up mental space in my head that like wasn't overcome by symptoms that had been running my life and controlling me for the better part of a decade, really, or over a decade. And I was like, oh my God, I have all this room to breathe and to be a person. And I knew that what I wanted to use that time and space for was to go back to creative endeavors that I had done when I was more of a child. I'd always been a creative person, and I just hadn't really had the spoons or brain power to do it because I was working full time, going to school full time, and dealing with mental illness. So when I felt like I had that brain power back, I I went into creative stuff, and that manifested a lot with street art. And so that's how I started a blog, and I started documenting all my creative stuff. And then when I realized how that creative stuff was helping me develop as a person, that's how it kind of started transforming more into self-love. Yeah.
Mm. Wow, this is beautiful. This is a really interesting and inspiring story. And it's interesting how you're talking about freeing up the space in your brain, basically in your person, to suddenly be able to express. And I think that a lot of people with chronic pain or chronic mental illness or chronic, like any chronic condition, we all face this, that it's just so tiring. We're like so fatigued by it that it's very difficult to get on track and then to stay on track and to do anything full force. And so actually in this installment of the series, this is precisely what I would like to talk about, is how to create a routine, a daily routine that would support us in our birthright to live a fulfilling life, not to miss out on life, and to kind of free up this brain space and personal power to be able to express, to be able to create, to be able to just live day to day normally, quote unquote. So how do you think self-love play into living with a chronic illness or chronic condition like migraine, for example, or any other chronic pain for that matter?
So I think that self-love and body positivity for me definitely overlap. And especially when we're talking about chronic illness, I think that it's important for them to overlap, because we're talking about how our bodies are working and how we're dealing with our bodies. A lot of the time I see these positive affirmations about body positivity that say things like, I love my healthy working body, and I love every cell of my body, and I love the way that my body is working for me. And I'm like, that's great if you're healthy, right? But like when you're dealing with a chronic illness, maybe you really are not identifying with those statements, because it's just plain not true. So
Right.
it's really hard for you to wrap your head around these like blanket statements that we're seeing in the self-love community around body positivity, when it's just not something that you're able to identify with. But I think that still creating this dialogue and this self-acceptance of your body, and focusing on the positive things that it still can do for you, because at the end of the day, you are still alive, and your body, as much as it might feel like it's a betrayal, I think that's a thing that we all can struggle with mentally. That when we're dealing with chronic or mental illness, it's like you're not in control of your body, and that feels like a betrayal. So focusing on the things that your body can do. If you're able to have working legs that take you places, like focus on that and think about the good things that your body can do for you, that the fact that you're able to see in color, or that you can go out and watch the sunset, or that you can take a walk, or anything that your body can do for you, like to focus on that. One of the main things that I always recommend to anyone that's wanting to start their self-love journey is something that, besides cognitive behavioral therapy, I attribute to changing my life completely, which was to start a gratitude practice.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I just call it a happy journal. You can call it a gratitude journal. There are tons of ways to start a gratitude practice. It could be in an Instagram caption. It could be talking it out loud. It could be telling it to your friend. It could be taking a picture and writing on it. It can be whatever you want it to be. But as simple as writing it in a journal, 3 things a day that you are happy about, that you're grateful for, that you got to experience, that you were lucky enough to get to do, or that you're having a bigger picture. Maybe it wasn't that day, but something as broad as being able to see in color, like, wow, like maybe we're not thinking about that because it's so like taken for granted, because it's a grand scheme thing. But I recommend to people to take stock of the good things that we're having, because not everybody gets to have those things. And I also, for people that are dealing with any kind of issues dealing with their bodies, to have a gratitude practice that's also focused specifically on their body. So like maybe Monday, you pick a body part and you devote that gratitude practice more specifically to that body part. So we talk about legs. So Monday, you write down a couple things that you're grateful for about legs, and you keep going every day with a different body part. And it just creates this dialogue and this conscious awareness of different parts of your body where you're like, wow, like, okay, maybe, maybe that part of my body isn't something that feels good all the time, but it still has good qualities, and it's still, maybe one isn't as bad as it could be. It still has good things that it does for me. And even the ones that really feel like they're betraying you the most, like, you still can have love letters to those parts of your body, and sometimes creating this compassion and state of forgiveness for those parts can be the most healing parts of self-love and moving on. So
wow, I really, really love that. And I've been doing a gratitude journal myself for a number of years now, but I never really took this approach. And I absolutely love this, because the issue that many people express with having a gratitude journal is that at some point it becomes like kind of an autopilot thing, right? You're like, oh, okay, 3 things, boom, boom, boom. And you kind of already know, like, oh, okay. So, and you're not really thinking of whether you're really grateful to those things or not, or for those things. But I love, like, with the chronic pain, I love this dialogue with the body, and to just like kind of go part by part, organ by organ, and just kind of figure out, like, what is this part supposed to do? Does it do it? Can it be better? Is it like as bad as it possibly could be? Wow, this is really awesome. I love that. Never thought of it this way. And
like, like the body scan meditations, like when
yes, absolutely, yeah.
It's kind of like that, but for your journal, and you can repeat. That's the beautiful thing. And I think that it's actually really important to repeat. Like when you feel like you've gotten through all of them, to go back and be like, okay, what else can I say about legs now that we've gone all the way through? Because it's not a one and done thing. It's this repetitive consciousness and coming back to the love of your body.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. And I never really thought about seeing in color as a gift, but
it's one of my favorite things about life.
Absolutely. Yes, you're absolutely right. Like, so some things that are not customary. So now I understand the name of your business completely. I got it. But yeah, this is really awesome. And I am a yoga teacher myself, so I actually do those body scans with students all the time, and it never occurred to me to do it this way. So it's amazing that you're mentioning it. I'm really grateful for that. So this is what's going into my gratitude journal today. Speaking with you about that. Wow, this is awesome. So how do you so you think, like, for example, when we talk about daily routine that we can develop is to support this, to support ourselves, to not miss out on life, to live a fulfilling life even if you are in pain. So you think that this gratitude journal or gratitude post or whatever the format you choose is like the first thing you can do. Anything else, or do you think this is like one basic thing?
That's definitely the main thing that I think, like, if there is a bare minimum, I always think of like your non-negotiable kind of list of self-care. So I think that it's important when we're coming up with our list of self-care, especially when we're dealing with something like mental or chronic illness, to come up with our non-negotiables. So when we have those really bad days where we're out of spoons, that we come to this list and we're like, okay, these are really simple things that I can still do on my worst day that are going to make me feel like I was still productive and still a person, because it can make us feel even worse to just do absolutely nothing. And I think it's even extra important on those days when we are really running low on steam, to do a gratitude practice. You know, on the days that I felt worse and the worst, and kind of pushed myself on the bed and made myself write three things, it's actually done the most for my mood, because I've created that shift in perspective and mindset and been like, wow, I felt like crap today, and I was still able to come up with three things, even if it was just like a cheesesteak and the fact that I have a cat, you know, so it was able to, like, you know, still do something for me. And maybe it was more important to do it that day than on a day that I had a lot going on that felt really great. So I think non-negotiable self-care is a really important thing for us to figure out, whether that's like taking your medication, going outside, taking a shower, and it can just be like three things or something. But I also, like, I advocate for what I call a magical morning ritual. And that's something that's been going around a lot. I don't know if any of your other people have been talking about this.
Not yet.
And okay, so it's something that, you know, it can also ideally go along with a nightly routine too. So this is basically creating space for yourself where you start off with an intention. And it's, first of all, not looking at your phone, screen, social media before you do anything. You are not engaging with the world yet. You are starting the day with an intention to create and hold space for yourself that's going to set up yourself for the positive way for the rest of the day. And this is like something like Hal, I can't think of his name, Hal something. He wrote this book called The Miracle Morning, and people have kind of been running with that and like creating their own versions of it, which I think is really great, because his strategy and his idea was very brilliant, but it's kind of rigid in the way that he came up with it. He was kind of like 5 minutes of positive affirmations, 20 minutes of exercise, and like it gets a little too rigid for people. I think what's really important is to do what makes you feel good, something that makes you feel good in the morning. And for me, the ritual aspect of a magical morning ritual is just the fact that you're coming back to it every day. Every single day can look completely different. Like, things that you can put in your magical morning ritual are meditating, doing emotional freedom technique or tapping, if you're familiar with that, doing yoga or stretching, having sex or orgasms, or journaling, reading, positive affirmations, lighting incense, working with crystals, going for a walk, exercising. Like, there's so many things that you can do that like are just going to set up like this positive space for you. And every morning can be different. If you don't feel like doing one of those things that day, then you do what feels good to you. And it doesn't have to be an hour. It can only be 10 minutes or 5 minutes. And the whole idea is that you're just coming back every morning and you're starting that day with an intent. It could just be like making yourself, like, mindfully making yourself a cup of coffee before you check in on your email or something, you know. And I have a list actually that I could share with you of like ideas.
That'd be great. Yeah, absolutely.
That you can do for a magical morning ritual. And then I also have a post of nightly routine stuff where you're coming back, because I've seen so many people talk about these magical morning rituals, or whatever people are calling them, that, you know, we're starting the day off with this great note, but like so many people are just like completely passing through ending the day on a good note, you know, like we still are like scrolling through our phones as we're falling asleep and having this light shine in our face at the end of the night, and like having insomnia, and we're like, why can't I fall asleep? And it's like, because there's blue light in your face, dude, that's why. And you know, like the idea is like to kind of do the same thing but in a more winding down fashion. So I can also share with you a post of like ways that will kind of help you create good sleep hygiene, and things that you can add to your nightly routine. I think these are really good things to set up self-care and just kind of hold this container of space for you to practice self-care. And again, it's not about what you do, it's about holding the space for yourself. And anything you do in that time it counts.
Yes. I really like this, that it's very flexible, especially for people with chronic pain. Sometimes it's not possible to have this hour. We don't have a lot of time.
No.
But so I would love it if you could share the links, and I'll put it down below the video so that you guys can see and grab this information, because the more ideas you have, the more variety you can have in your magical mornings and your night routines. So while you were talking about this, I also really like the concept of non-negotiable things, right? Like non-negotiable rituals that you do. This is something I personally struggle a lot, even though I consider myself a very disciplined person, like to have a lot of self-discipline. And I know a lot of chronic pain sufferers and migraine sufferers in particular have the same situation, is that when I am in a lot of pain, especially several days in a row, or sometimes several months in a row, several weeks in a row, with each day I feel worse and worse emotionally. So I can't really say that I'm completely depressed. It's not true, probably, but I feel more and more blue, like more and more down, and kind of like everything is gray. And this apathy and this like, wow, what's the point of doing anything? I can't, and oh, I'm in pain. So kind of using the pain as an excuse also for not doing anything. So how would you suggest? And so for me, I always look for ways to how can I push myself, but in a way that doesn't feel like pushing, in a way that feels gentle and loving and effective, because sometimes pushing is not effective at all. You can't, it's not going to do any good. So do you have any suggestions for that? Like, how do you approach days like that, your worst days when your whole being is apathetic?
So I think that apathy is something that we, like, way more people struggle with than we realize, first of all. And it can be really exacerbated by depression or chronic illness, but it can also just exist on its own. Like, some people can just be apathetic and have that kind of mindset on their own. So so then when you have something like chronic pain for a couple days, it just gets way, way, way worse. So when I work with like coaching clients on this, the two main things that I talk about with countering apathy are to, one, actually three things. Okay, so one is to continuing creating goals for yourself and having those goals in your head. And that is to basically, like, when we're feeling apathetic, like, we have this feeling of like no intrinsic motivation, right? It's just this like, well, why bother? Because nothing matters kind of thing. So to have goals set up prior to this instance, or to like have something that we can come back to of like, this is my goal and why, and focusing on the why of the goal, and knowing that like little tiny micro steps every other day are completely worthwhile and count, and that they are way better than not doing anything. So like just doing a little tiny thing towards your goal is absolutely great and okay than not doing anything. So if your goal is, to be healthier, then, going outside is better than sitting in bed all day. So like that, just knowing that like you made a little bit of progress today is better than not doing anything. Another thing that I find with apathy is that we tend to become more and more apathetic when we are faced with mundane or tedious routines. So when we're, in a situation where you're feeling pain constantly, and it's been multiple days where you're kind of in the same situation, right? You're sitting in bed, and the routine is that you're just sitting there, right? You're just in pain. And other routines can be like a 9-to-5 job where you're going back and forth and you have the schedule or whatever. So my counterbalance to that is to mix up what's going on. And I have other links that I can share with you for that. I have like hundreds of ways that you can mix up what's going on. And it can be as simple as just like the way that you shower can mixing up the order of the way that you shower. So like not washing your hair first and doing something out of order, and just kind of mixing with your brain and the processes of the stuff that you do, or like just taking a different way to the grocery store, or to go to the pharmacy or something like that. Just doing something like very minute can actually really help with that. And then also doing the stuff with like mindless, not mindless, but more like purposeless practices of basically play. So it seems kind of counterintuitive, because when we're thinking of apathy, we're thinking like, oh, there's no purpose to whatever. But like we're actually doing this purposeless play with a purpose, with an intent. So thinking about like what our play personality is, what we liked as a child, and play as an adult doesn't mean necessarily being in a sandbox or going on the playground. I mean, it can, but it can also mean like writing or dancing or like watching a movie. It can be as simple as that, and just creating time where what you're doing is not work motivated, and there's not really like a point behind it. So like, yeah, I think that making sure that what you're doing is not the same every single day is really important. And a way that you can do that is to throw in play. And then just to also make sure that you are kind of creating more goals for yourself, and being cognizant of the fact that like this isn't going to last forever, and that you start working on your goals right now, even if you're not making giant leaps towards them. Unfortunately, like the reality is like, we're not going to feel as super motivated in this space, but we also aren't going to shake this mental cognition feeling unless we do something about it. Right. So we also have to be aware of the fact that like nothing is going to happen to break up apathy unless we take a step to break the cycle. So it really is, unfortunately, a little bit, it's not our fault, but it's on us to start breaking the cycle up. So yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is exactly right. So yeah, and what I find is when you, that's why I think creating a routine is so important, because once we when we create this as a habit, like brushing teeth, that's totally non-negotiable. Even if I have the worst migraine ever, I still go and I brush my teeth. Like I cannot imagine my life without brushing teeth. And well, maybe once in a while, fine, I'll be honest. But so to add some positive habits into that ranking, together with brushing teeth, like what are the things that you cannot live without? Right. Like, for example, I'm seeing beautiful sunflowers behind you, and I just remembered that sunflowers are my favorite flowers, and just having them on the table, it's so pretty, and it obviously just brings you something. So just surround you, and your headpiece, again, going back to it, just surrounding yourself with this playful and bright and positive atmosphere, but kind of always, right? So that when you sink into this hole, like kind of black hole, there are ways for you to get out of it, because you see, sunflowers, boom, a little bit higher, a little bit higher, a little bit higher. So yeah, I think that's really cool, and that's amazing. So thank you.
Another thing that I think is important is, when we're not always feeling depressed, apathetic, or in pain. So when we're feeling a little better, when we have more spoons, that we take that time to prepare. And doing that preparation is also a huge boost to our self-esteem. Like, just scientifically, preparation creates courage, and it creates a higher boost in self-esteem. So it's a win-win, really. But that preparation can look like making an pain toolkit or an anti-anxiety or anti-depression toolkit. And that can have things in there that are going to comfort you. It could be like a suitcase full of stuff or just a little tool chest. It could have a soft blanket or a movie or a book or a notebook and a pen and a coloring book and a crystal and sage and all these things that are going to comfort you. Water, extra medication, all these things that are going to help you. And it's just like this safety net of things that you're like, I'm feeling like crap, I'm grabbing the kit, I'm going to bed, but you have the stuff with you. And another thing that I recommend to people, it's usually with anxiety or depression that I work with the most, but this I think can be for any issue, is like it's like a safety plan. So it's just a worksheet, and it doesn't need to be fancy or anything. It could just be you writing it down. But it's like what I have people write down is like, what are my triggers? What are my emotion or my physical warning signs? Who are the support people that I can contact and their information? What are my coping skills? Other reminders, like things that are going to be like a very easy kind of like grab cheat sheet that you could go to, so that when you're feeling low, you don't have to do the extra work. It's just there for you. And you just have this cheat sheet of being like, I know that this is options for me, and so you're like, thanks past self, I did all this work, so now that I can feel better a little bit or have the safety net kind of thing.
This is a great idea, kind of a first aid kit and the cheat sheet. Yeah, I like that. Wow, this is amazing. You're full of awesome ideas. So I understand that you have, in addition to all this amazing information that you have already given us and shared with us and all the links that you promised, you also have a free gift for the audience of this podcast.
I mean, I have a bunch of free stuff for you guys. So I have like a freebie page that I'm just going to direct you to, because there are a lot of courses that I think that you guys can benefit from. And I'm basically you can pick which one you want, basically. So I have 5 free e-courses that you can pick from, and they're all on different topics. And the one that I'm going to promote for you guys, that I'm going to recommend, is the one on self-care. So that is just 7 days, 7 lessons, and all of these formats are just going to come to you one day at a time in your email, one lesson at a time. Each lesson is going to have, it's going to have the actual lesson, it's going to have a quote, it's going to have an assignment, a picture, some resources, and basically it's very easy, one step at a time, and it works on that specific topic. So there's self-care, there's also self-esteem, mindfulness, gratitude, and then there's one on magic. So if you're interested in any of those, you are welcome to get those as well. But I definitely recommend self-care specifically for chronic illness. I think that that's probably the best one for you guys. So you can get that at uncustomary.org/freebies, and we'll have the link here too.
Yes, absolutely. We'll have the link. So just don't forget to grab all those amazing free e-courses, or one or all of them, whatever you choose. And Mary, also, you mentioned a couple of times that you're working as a coach with people. So you work privately as well?
Yeah, so I do one-on-one coaching with people. You can do a one-time session if that's if you're feeling you just need like a one-time session, or if you want to feel me out. But I do offer more like group or not group, but like, multiple session packages. And those are more intensive, where you get me not just with the Skype session, but like I offer like, there's a really cool app called Voxer, where you can, from wherever you are in the world, you can send me text, audio, video, and pictures. And it's just a really cool way to keep in touch between our phone calls, and for me to send you like positive affirmations and reminders to do your homework and stuff like that. So it's just like a more integrative way to be in coaching. Yeah, so I do a lot of coaching, and there's a lot of ways to work with me one-on-one. And I have e-courses. I also have a membership group that's really fun. There's 5 new resources every week. There's journaling, EFT sessions, meditations, worksheets. There's just a whole bunch of cool stuff in there, and the babes in there are just fantastic. So.
All right. Well, I'm sold. So guys, thank you so much for watching. And if you want to take advantage of Mary's offering, which I totally recommend, as you can see, she is a well of beautiful information, and just your positivity and your brightness, Mary, is absolutely contagious. So if you guys want to work with her, you know how to find her. I'll have all the links below the video. And you can, of course, contact me directly if you have any questions, or contact Mary directly if you have any questions for her. Thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful day, and may we all be free from suffering and pain. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mary.
Bye.